pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. If anyone hasn't gotten the immunization, I ask you to wear a mask. If you have gotten immunization, it's your choice. So if you need a mask, I can get one from somewhere, but... Yeah, that's the policy in the town hall as of now. Okay. We start off our meeting at 7 o'clock here. We have a visitor, our county legislator, Lori Tortel, will introduce him and why he's here, and we'll go from there. Before you do that, Lori, I've asked my emergency services people to be here tonight because of the topic. So I noticed we have a couple of firemen. Jeff always comes late from the ambulance corps. There's nobody else from the ambulance corps here, is there? Ryan. Yeah, Ryan. And of course our police department's here. Go ahead, Laura. Jeff will be here.
Thank you, Bob. There's been a lot of talk lately about response rates, calls going from our cell phones here in the town of Highlands to Putnam County, being transferred back to Orange County, and just the overall system involved. There's also talk of the cell towers and communication that's new out on 293 for our emergency services, which was always a very bad dead zone. I can still hear Bill Stropel talking about it to this day, and that was finally remedied. So they're going to talk a little bit about that system. It's called the FirstNet system and the county system, and they got some information from Putnam County. So I've asked Commissioner Casey to join us here to go over it. He's brought with him his Deputy Commissioner Alan, Wojcicki, and I'm sorry. Greg Schmidt is our Director of Operations. Greg and I have just met for the first time tonight. I usually deal directly with the Commissioner. So if the Commissioner would come up, some of the issues that we had talked about via email, again with the 911 calls, the system, the FirstNet towers, and our response rates and how many calls they actually receive, since they are our dispatchers for the Town of Highlands Police Department, Ambulance Corps, and Fire Department. Thank you, Commissioner.
Before you start, Commissioner, I would like to thank you and your department for the work you've done during this Henry deal here.
Yeah, it's
thank you very
been a
much
heck
for all
of
of
the
it.
last 2 years with the pandemic, and now we just had a hurricane, we got the air show coming up, so it's certainly not what I envisioned when I retired from the state police. It's not a retirement job, but I enjoy it, and we have a great team at the county, and the county exec and the legislatures really support emergency services and first responders. Very rarely do I go before them and ask for a project that's going to support emergency services, and I'm denied. They are always behind us, so we should all be thankful for that. So I was invited here tonight, and thank you for having me. We go around the county occasionally. These issues come up in various villages and towns about dispatch. Should we get rid of our dispatchers? Should the county take it over? So we've been to these meetings with Walden and a couple other places. They've come in and met with us. So I'll tell you right off the bat that we don't take a position either way on it. We are there. It's a service the county provides. We do not bill back to the municipalities. We, in a sense, are your dispatchers to a certain extent because we take all the 911 calls in Orange County. Even if they go to Putnam, they're sent to us. We're a single PSAP county. So all the 911 calls, even for the city of Newburgh, everywhere, go into our building. It's entered into the CAD as the call taker is speaking with the caller. That information goes out to the dispatchers or directly to the police departments if they have mobile CAD. So there were some questions that came up on number of calls. It looks like Putnam, it's a little over 800 calls last year that Putnam sent back into Orange County. So that's probably the majority of them are from this area, West Point, maybe some from Cornwall. It depends on where the phone is and what tower it hits. To give you an idea of what we do, we transfer back out about 5,000, a little more than 5,000 a year. You can imagine when you're out by Port Jervis, there's an area you can stand, you're in all 3 states at the same time. Who answers that phone call? So we work with our partners in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Sullivan County, Ulster, all the counties that we border. And we have a system in place where it's answered and it's transferred into the county that has jurisdiction. So it's a very quick process. Once they find out that the call is not in their jurisdiction, they punch it over, it comes in through our trunk line, and it gets answered, and we run the call that way. So, as far as, I don't have response times for all of your agencies. We could produce that. I'd imagine it's pretty quick. You don't have a very large geographical area here. You're mostly concentrated right in and around the village. So I can tell you, if you have questions related to how many calls we get in this area, we can tell you that. And that's really it. And then, also you have the ability, depending on what happens with the village, to do a hybrid model. We do take some police departments' calls after 7 p.m. They shut down their desk, and then we take it on the overnight. So there are some hybrid models that we do with some municipalities. It just depends on what's going to work best for you and your constituents down here in this area. So with that, I'll take questions I have. Like I said, the Deputy Commissioner for 911 is Alan Wierzbicki. He built the system out. He's been there for, I don't even know, 15 years. And Greg is Director of Operations. He's really our guru on all the tech. I know Lori brought up FirstNet. FirstNet's great. AT&T sold that and kind of was building the airplane as they're flying it. So those Band 14 towers are the key. Once they have to get those Band 14 towers up, or else FirstNet is not going to be what they said it's going to be. And there's a lot of them up, but as you live in New York, you live above the Bear Mountain Bridge, right? Where's the concentration? They're going to focus down there, and then as it works its way up the Hudson, it works its way up the Hudson. So that's where we're at with that. We've had some problems with FirstNet also, but it is getting better. Once they get those towers in place and they're really fully functional, you'll have better FirstNet coverage. So I'm here to take any questions that you might have.
Yeah, I got one for you.
Yep.
So, and thank you for coming, first of all. And I'm just thinking about the residents I've talked to and the perception that if the local dispatcher was not used and we have to go to the county, the perception, as I understand it, is that is a extra length of time that could cost someone their life. Now, is that a reality, or is that?
No, in fact, when you call, our dispatchers are trained in medical procedures. They talk people. We have numerous times we've saved lives by talking people through CPR. Once that call comes into 911, they immediately start typing in the CAD, and the police departments can see. So that information is being put in directly. What you do lose with some of the locals is, hey, it's that place that used to be Mabel's, it's not Mabel's anymore. They have that local knowledge that comes into play now and again. But you have to weigh the cost of maintaining that system for how many times does that happen. And we like I said, we dispatch directly for a lot of places, and depending on the size of the agency and the amount of calls, it'll dictate whether we can just take them over or we have to really get some more money and hire more people. So you guys aren't Town of New Windsor, you're not Town of Newburgh. When we take over smaller places with less calls, it's less of an impact to us. So we know your call volume, what we could do. We are currently in talks with West Point to take over all of their emergency dispatching on the base. They've come to the realization that it's very difficult to bring new MPs in all the time and train them up to become dispatchers, which they don't want to be anyway. Right. And then they transfer, and it's just this never-ending thing. So they have a nationwide project going on for Army bases to look at local services surrounding the bases. What can you use, tap into, where it's going to be better for the people on the base and it's not so much of a burden on them. I think we do a lot of, we have the AVLs in their cars so we can track the MP vehicles around. We have AVLs in the police cars. It's part of our closest available unit system. So in an area where you have a deputy, a trooper, and a local police officer, if there's a priority call, the system will automatically identify the closest police unit, regardless of who it is, and say, Highland Falls car 25, sheriff car 4, you guys are 2 closest units, this is the incident. So that's a system that we've put in place with the MPs also. So we're on a path to basically take over emergency dispatch over for West Point. So it is something that we constantly are questioned about it, queried. Can we do it? What do we offer? What's the difference? And
Just for the record, I don't have a position one way or the other. I'm conveying what I've heard from residents.
yeah,
Now, to your point about the military, I'm a 30-year Army veteran, so I'm very familiar with what you're talking about. The continuity of each one of those positions is a 2-year kind of deal.
Right.
Somebody comes in for 2 years, they PCS, they go somewhere else, now you got to train a new guy.
Yeah.
And it becomes problematic at times.
yeah. And that's the dispatching. When I was a trooper, I sat at the desk, like Frank did when we were all young cops, and you answered the phone, and you did your best as you talked on the radio. The dispatching position is a career now. I mean, the amount of training and skill level that they need and the amount of equipment and high-tech stuff that they deal with is completely different from when I was a trooper sitting on the desk in Monroe answering phone calls. So that's what you get with the county is these technology costs are spiraling out of control. I mean, we go before the legislatures all the time, we buy stuff, and 5 years later, we'll spend millions of dollars on stuff, and we're not supporting the platform anymore. You can't buy parts for it. They force you into, you kind of have to constantly buy this stuff because it's like your Apple phone. You can have an iPhone 4, not going to work great, and that's technology, what they do. So it's becoming increasingly more difficult for local municipalities to maintain these systems and keep up with the Joneses. We're doing a records management system for the police. It's $2 million right off the bat. The system niche, they won't even sell you the system unless you have 500 users. So if you're a police department with 15 guys, you can't even buy the system. So that's where all this is going, and it becomes, incumbent upon the elected officials to look at, wow, what can we do here? Because those costs are not going away, and they're just going to keep kind of, body cams, storage of the stuff. All those costs keep hitting you, and it becomes difficult. And the county tries to step up. We're lucky. The lawmakers look at this. We don't bill back. We get asked about that. Oh, do you send a bill? No, we don't do that. And we're fortunate they don't force us to do that. It's something that the county provides, the radio system, $30 million system, brand new equipment to everybody. No bill backs. Here you go. So that's just the way Orange County operates, and we'll do that as long as we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, my last comment would be that's what I'm interested in, what you just said in terms of the cost savings potentially. And then should our board get responsible for something that occurs in the future, then we know that we have the capability to do exactly what you just described by using the county.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about the training that your dispatchers have? And maybe even walk through, for those of us that aren't sure, walk through the sequence of events that takes place as soon as someone dials 911?
I'm going to give that to Alan. Alan's the expert here. He's been running 911 for many years now, so he'll tell you about all the levels that they've gone through.
Hi, so the dispatchers, minimum 200 hours training, that's state law. There's 40 hours yearly. There's in-service training. There's quality control on the call, so we re-listen to the calls. They're graded. If mistakes were made, we meet with the dispatchers, play the call for them. And you can't take a 911 call in this state without that training. And then you have to keep records and all the other things that come with it. As far as what happens when the phone rings, the dispatcher answers the phone and starts taking information. So the number and location come with it, generally on a cell phone, phase 2, and then we have another part called Rapid SOS, which gives us precise locations. It's kind of the same thing Uber and Domino's use. That's how they know you're standing on that street corner. So it sends it to the Apple. They take the information off your phone, elevation, towers, places nearby, those types of things, and they pinpoint your location through multi-information that they gather. So the dispatcher, as the commissioner said, starts entering the call in. If it's a critical call, not breathing. So we ask 3 questions, are they conscious, are they breathing, and what exactly is the problem? So if the answer is they're not breathing or they're not conscious, that call immediately, after those 3 questions, goes to the dispatcher and the ambulance gets toned out. And then we continue to ask questions. I know you probably hear a lot, well, they asked me 12 questions and, we were waiting for the ambulance. Well, the ambulance is on its way already, and we try to tell people that. But the information we gather is sometimes important to the paramedics coming to your location. So they get all that information in updates. If call going to Putnam, we have no control over that. That's the cell phone, it hits a tower, and so on. But most PSAPs, Putnam and us, we only transfer the calls to one location in another jurisdiction. So we send the call back. If we get a call from Putnam, it doesn't matter what's in Garrison or Peekskill, we're going to send it back to Putnam County, their PSAP. Same thing in Dutchess, Pike County, Sussex, and so on. So I know so what happens with that is they transfer it back to us, and then we're going to enter it, and then we're going to either dispatch it or give it to the Village of Highland Falls Police Department dispatch. So we do fire here, we do all mutual aid. So regardless whether we're actually sending somebody to the call or not, we're going to end up doing dispatching. Like on a large fire, you'll tone, if you were doing fire, you would tone one department, we would do the other 5 or 6 involved in it anyway. So there's always going to be dispatching from the county. I know we had talked about a 7-digit line into a police dispatch. Well, that would absolutely get you to the police dispatch, but it won't get you his location, it won't get you, if they can't talk, you won't have the ability to text, so you lose a lot of abilities. In 2020, you guys had 230, I get the number here, I think 231 medical calls. If those calls come in 7-digit, there's no medical instructions that you're going to get, and so on. So what happens if there's a heart attack victim here, right now, a dispatcher would give you directions on how to do CPR. And as good as the ambulance corps are, and they're all very good, there's kind of a 3-minute, the rule of 3s, 3 minutes without air is starting to be a problem. So, 3 days without water, 30 days without food. But so even if your ambulance has a great response time of 6-7 minutes, okay, if they're not getting air for those 6 or 7 minutes, maybe they don't recover at all, or maybe they recover with damage, or the worst case scenario, obviously, they can't be revived. We've had it where people have done CPR, our instructions for 10 minutes. The ambulance got there, paddled the person, brought him back. They took him in, they revived him. They were released from the hospital, got their heart fixed, got a stent put in or whatever. No brain damage, no physical problems. So the thing is if you're going to a local person to answer a medical call, you're giving up a lot of expertise. And we do that for fire calls. We also do that for police calls. So in police calls, there's a whole questions, an assault victim, make sure the scene is safe so we don't send EMS into a scene that they get held hostage at. We make sure the police go there first, the ambulance is on standby till they give the all clear, and then the ambulance goes in. Because as important as it is to help victims, it's important to keep our first responders safe. and that they don't go, to a call and end up being taken hostage or worse. So that's kind of what happens through a whole 911 call.
If I could ask another question too, that, and all the medical instructions, the training, that's part of the training that the person needs
That's
to do
correct.
to be able to be
Yeah.
hired to be the dispatcher.
It's a system called Priority Dispatch.
Yeah.
We use all three disciplines, which mean police, fire, and EMS. And they're trained in that. They have to take so many calls, and then even if they take the calls, what is it, so many calls over 2 years, they get automatically certified the first year. The second year, they have to take a test, get recertified. And like I said, we do a Q&A on that, so the calls are graded. And then we go to them and say, well, why'd you ask this, or you missed this question, or whatever.
And then another question you mentioned about the mutual aid. Regardless, you all get involved in the mutual aid aspect.
Correct.
So if there is a need, and I see our ambulance corps captain sitting back there. So if the Town of Highlands Ambulance Corps is responding to a call, and we realize, or they realize, or somewhere along the line, there's a realization that there needs to be a paramedic there, that is either has been dispatched by you based upon the 911 call and the questions that have been asked and answered, or once our guys or gals get on the scene, whether it's police or ambulance or whatever, and they realize we need a paramedic, then that needs to be dispatched.
That we would dispatch that.
Yeah,
So there
ALS.
is the potential of some critical time being lost there by not knowing
Yeah, we poll whether
necessarily.
it's KJ Ambulance or the Windsor, we look for those ALS providers. Same thing with the mass casualty plan, we can initiate that if it becomes a really big incident. And there's only one other thing I'll say about 911, there's been a lot of talk of diverting calls that maybe the guy's in mental health crisis, the police need to be sent there. A couple of years ago, we co-located our 311 system right on the floor of 911. So that is your suicide hotline, mobile mental health, drug addiction, all those things are now under 311. So those call takers who are trained mental health professionals are right on the floor with 911. So we can kind of take a look at those calls that, hey, maybe we need mobile mental health out here, not just police. Maybe we can kind of diffuse this situation in a different way. So we've been leaning forward on that. We're one of the first counties to integrate 311 into 911, and we still have a little ways to go with the cross computers, but they are co-located, they're right there. You can get across the floor and say, hey, listen, get mobile mental health on the way here, or if they get someone on their mental health hotline where the guy, the mother calls a mental health hotline, but the son's out there swinging an axe, they can say, hey, you better send the cops over here too. So it's one of the things that we've tried to do, because we do realize that, Alan was with state police for a long time, Frank. Nobody wants to go to MHL calls. If you want to take them off our plate, take them off our plate, but we got to figure out a better way to kind of do those, because, they end in tragedy a lot of times, and sometimes maybe they don't have to.
So, and just another note about the paramedics. Generally on serious calls, Echo or Delta calls, that prompts us to send the ALS anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, there are numerous times where the people tell us something that maybe isn't quite accurate. We send the ambulance corps out there, they find out the truth and then have to call us. But if it's a serious call, there's no time wasted with a paramedic. We would dispatch them the same time we dispatch the BLS unit. And the other thing with that is if you have a big event, and fire, EMS, and police are involved. So if you go to a smaller place, right, you have one dispatcher, so they have to answer the police radio, then they have to tone out EMS, and they have to tone out fire. It's all done simultaneously with us. Everybody gets notified at the same time. So those are the things that you wouldn't be taking advantage of that if we weren't answering your 911 calls. So.
And can you talk a little bit more about Rapid SOS? Again, what capability does that give a community
Well,
that you have?
Yeah, it's a system Well, that they came up basically to deliver pizza and share rides.
Uses other devices.
And what it is it takes the information off of your phone. So this carrier will get you the long and lat and your general location. Well, then they'll dip into your phone. This Rapid SOS through Apple or Android will dip into your phone. They'll take all the information that's stored on your phone. Your location, if you have your location services on, where you've been, your elevation, all of those things. And it has an algorithm, and that's how, if you ever ordered Uber, how you could watch the car drive down and it knows you're on this corner and you see it making turns and so on. So that's what that is. And that's available, that would be, the web-based part would be available to anyone that takes 911 calls, correct?
Correct.
So I don't think it would be available to a local dispatch.
And you cannot opt out of it. It's either your phone's capable of doing it if it's a smartphone or it's not.
Yeah, you know how you could opt out of location? With 911, you can't opt out.
So for the benefit of someone who's calling 911, the fact that you have that capability, that, in the event I'm calling and I can't talk or whatever the case is, you can come to me.
Correct.
Even though I am not.
Correct. We would send some help. Generally our go-to there would be the police because they're already on the road, they're in their car, they're trained, and then, they would make a decision as to what help is needed.
Prior to that, it would use triangulation off the towers.
Yeah.
It
Right.
gave us, a couple 100-meter, hey, we think the phone's right around here.
Right.
This just pinpoints a little bit more,
Right to it.
gives you a little more, better information on where that phone is. And we have text to 911 too. Like you said, it can't talk. We introduced that a number of years ago to people, that maybe they don't want someone to know that they're calling the police. Domestic violence situation, they can actually text to 911, hey, I'm in trouble, send me this address, and it goes silently to us, and we text back, we got you, they're on their way. So, and it's good for hearing and speech impaired people, obviously, so.
So the other thing that's going on now is with the newest versions of the 911 phone systems, if you're working the same platforms, you'll be able to transfer all the information. So when Putnam gets a call or we get a call and we transfer it out, all the location information will go with the call. So we're going to come to the legislature shortly for money. But yeah, the technology just keeps growing, as Brendan said, and it's even for a county as supportive as Orange, it's just so hard to keep up with the technology. There's new things keep coming out every single day, and you got to go through and kind of weigh it, cost versus benefit, and
So make sure I understand this clearly. Local folks usually have one person as a dispatcher.
well, generally, some of the bigger places have two, but
Yeah, okay. And so the operation that you all are running, it's multiple,
we have 10.
10
We
people
work
in there.
10. But to give you an idea of how big dispatching is in the county, besides our 10 people working, like in the afternoon or day shift, within the county, there's probably another 20 dispatchers working. So like I know Newburgh has 2 on, New Windsor has 2, Warwick has 2, Woodbury 2. So all the bigger places that do that. And as he was saying, for us to take over all of that, would have to redesign the center, add more space and so on. But about 2 years ago, I believe, we did dispatch, we consistently dispatched the town, but we dispatched the village for whatever, 4 months, 5 months back, a couple years ago, I think, when there was some issues going on. So the capabilities are there. We do Cornwall, like we got a thing from Cornwall today, said my dispatchers can't be working these 5 days, so then we just automatically pick it up for them. So,
A quick question.
yeah,
It's kind of a local question. I call from here on my cell phone. How do I know I got Putnam? Do they identify themselves?
how do you know you got?
That I got the Putnam Tower? How do I know?
Well, yeah, they're gonna probably ask you what's your emergency and what's your location,
Are they going to tell me who they are?
and they're gonna tell you who they are. Yeah,
Oh,
they're gonna
okay.
say, you got Putnam County, we're gonna transfer you to Orange.
Okay, and what's the quickest way for me to get transferred to Orange?
They would transfer. They should have a one-button transfer the same as we do.
So I'm going to tell them I'm in Orange County.
Well, they're going to answer the phone, what's your emergency? You're going to say,
Okay.
I'm having chest pains. They're going to say, where are you? And you're going to tell them, and they're going to say, that's in Orange County, we'll transfer you there. Now, we make sure that, we all do live transfers, so there's no blind transfers. So they'll get on a call with us so we don't lose you. One of the biggest things is to get a callback number for you so we can call you back if the call gets lost and so on. But they're going to take a couple seconds to identify that you're not in their county or in their jurisdiction, and then maybe another couple seconds and then, some people just don't know where they are. So there are people driving down, if the call comes from 9W or they're coming to the base, they don't know they're in Highland Falls, they don't know Orange County from Putnam.
Yeah.
So sometimes it takes a second or, well, a little more than a second, but a few seconds to figure out where that person is and where to transfer the call. But we would never abandon you. We would never say, oh, you're in Putnam, here, listen to the dial tone, they'll answer there when they answer. We stay with you till they have control of the call, then we'll get off the call.
Does the ambulance get kicked out at that point? When does the ambulance get pushed out? What part of that call, that transfer process,
Well, then, till we got the call.
till you get it?
Till we get it, and then we would ask the 3 questions. If it was no, he's not breathing, or he's not conscious, then we would enter the call, it would go to our dispatcher, they would tone out the ambulance corps, and we would continue with our questions. If it wasn't those questions, then there's 5 or 6, whatever, but usually it's within a minute the ambulance corps or fire company is toned out. There are exceptions, sometimes, the people are screaming for a minute, you can't even control them till they're able to speak again. You got to keep in mind, so when people call us, it's a big deal. They're having the worst day of their lives, or one of the worst days of their lives. So, it takes a long time sometimes to corral them. And then you got, the people that got a paper cut and they're calling, screaming that they need an ambulance immediately. And then you got the other guy who lost a leg and he's like, I wasn't sure whether I should call or not. But, so people are people, and you just, we take them for what they're telling us. We believe everything they tell us because we don't have any choice. But when the ambulance corps gets there, you guys know sometimes things aren't exactly as they were reported.
That's why it's important to have those extra call takers. A lot of times when we get a call on a crime, the first caller knows something going on, but he doesn't have really good information. It might be the 3rd or 4th caller who calls in and says, hey, I saw the guy. Now that's the guy I really want to talk to. But if you don't have the ability to answer all of those 911 calls that are coming in for a shots fired call, you're not going to be able to sort through who's really the best caller here. And that's why a lot of police departments say, well, transfer the caller to us. Well, which one do you want? Because we got 15 calls on this, and it takes a while to really figure out who's that best caller, and you got to have that ability to kind of sort through that stuff.
Anyone have any questions? Yes.
Is it only police vehicles that have the CAD computers, or is it pushed out to other kind of?
No.
Who has those?
Well, they're available to any EMS, fire, or police.
So they all get pushed
So-
simultaneously? So you're looking for the closest
So
vehicle?
mobile CAT, no, that's AVLs. That's just police. So what happens is it'll give us the 2 closest cars. So it might be a Town of Highlands car and a sheriff's car. It might be a Town of Highlands and trooper. It might be the 2 cars with jurisdiction. And a lot of times, if it's close to the village border, the village cars might jump on and say, I'm like a block away and hold it down for you. So generally in a village, it's very rare for the village not to be the closest car.
Especially if they have the CAD, because they're
So-
seeing it. By the time, once it's punched in there, and then by the time they go priority tone it out, a lot of those, New Windsor's famous
Right.
for it. New Windsor's like, we have 3 units en route already, before we even tone it out, because they see, as our caller to type it into the CAD, shots fired, boom, they're like, they're basing calls right away, so we have 3 units en route.
See, and there's just a ton of issues, like if they take the call out of the CAD, while it's being entered, and you got a response time like a village, which is generally probably for the PD a few minutes, okay, we may not find out there's a weapon involved. They may not volunteer that information until a minute, 2 minutes, or 3 minutes into the call. So their response time is so quick, they're getting to the call before they have all the information and all the dangers they could possibly be. Now, if it's a call in a town, generally it's a longer response time because they have further to drive, and you have a little bit more time. But in a village, when you jump those calls without all the information, I mean, 99.9% of it, thankfully, it works out all fine, but, you know, not all the information comes out immediately in a call. People hold back, people kind of fudge a little, you know, they minimize their own actions, and, you know, I mean, we know people, so. Yes, sir.
Is it fair to say that if we had a lot of other departments go on to 911 that have their own dispatch now, that the 911 could be overwhelmed and that would cause delays on response times? Does it come to times like that where you have a lot of calls?
No, well, yeah, I can't say that, yeah. Hurricanes, blizzards,
Yeah,
for
we've had
pump outs,
times where
stuff
the
like
works
that, yeah.
lit up, but we have the
So
ability.
natural disasters, but
We have the ability to call people in, but if your question, we would never take over New Windsor without hiring additional people. And that's kind of the point we're making is, if you are New Windsor or Town of Newburgh, a lot of calls, a lot of activity, if we were to absorb them, it would be additional employees. We'd have to adjust the space a little bit, you know, so what we go around to some of the villages, you know, we're out in Mount Hope, yeah, we can Deer Park, okay, we can take your stuff. We can handle those things, and we know the call line, so, but we would never tell Newburgh and New Windsor, we're taking you over, and we're gonna hire some people 2 years from now. No, we know that. It really is life or death 911. You can't say, we're just gonna see if we can get by and just see what works. You know, we have to have a certain level of staffing, and we know over the years from call volume, what we can handle, and, you know, how we can, I mean, my building's built, we can go out into the classrooms and put additional call takers in there. I mean, we can expand that out. The building was, you know, magnificently designed, and it's performed everything we've asked it to do. That's why it's important to, I mean, I think my building probably at $50 million at the end of the day, and it's important to have something like that because you have the ability to do all those things on the county level. But again, that's, you know, it's a money thing, it's a lot of money.
the answer is we have minimum staffing, 9 and 10, exactly like he said. We wouldn't bring people on, and we know, you know, each call taker on each shift handles so many calls. Not only is it the number of calls they especially on police, it's their span of control. So one dispatcher can't really realistically follow 12 police vehicles and expect to know where they are all the time and so on. So if you're dropping your span of control to 7 or 8, that's something that a person could keep track of. So those are all the things that we take into account. Could, hopefully never happen, but we have a big plane crash or something, will we get overridden? Sure. But almost everybody would.
The reason why I asked, I'm a police officer with the Village of Highland Falls. We have our own dispatch, as you guys know. Almost every time I've called 911, I'm a town resident, it goes to Putnam. He takes the information, just like you said, hold on, let me get Orange County on the line, then they then transfer it, and then sometimes the questions are asked again, it's repeated, and all that is a delay. And I know when we had a lot of times drug overdose, we have our own dispatch, and we know where we are. A lot of times 911 will ask, what's the crossroad? A lot of times people don't know where they are, don't know the crossroad. When you call our local dispatch, they know exactly.
Yeah, that works great, until, of course, you need the deputy or state police to back you up, and they don't know where your backup is, because you're not using an address, you're using local information.
Right.
So, with that being said, let me say we work hand in hand. We train we'll go to your station, we'll train your people. We have, Highland Falls does a great job. We have no issue with their dispatchers. But you have to look back for 20 years where there's one person answering the phone saying, okay, you have chest pains, hang on, we'll send the ambulance, and they hang up. This is this is a whole new world we're living in, and there's a lot of information and there's a lot of valuable resources out there at our fingertips that we're able to give you that sometimes a smaller place cannot.
So you're...
That's all I'm saying.
You guys would train for our local dispatch if they needed extra training?
We probably trained, of course, we trained your CAD guys probably already.
Fantastic.
I mean, that's the only one that they could possibly get trained.
Charge
We
to
do
the-
we do their APCO courses, we do, whatever, I'm
Is there
sorry.
a charge to the village for that?
No, books.
Great.
We charge back for books. If there's usually a basic course is what, $100 for the book?
Yeah, the thing is, if you start doing EMD, EPD, EFD, what you was talking about, the 3 disciplines, where we do the standardized structured call taking, that becomes a lot of money because you start paying for licenses for the card setter, the software that you're using.
Yeah, I meant more in medical or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we want to make sure that our primary goal here is public safety. So we want to make sure that the local police, the dispatchers, everybody's on the same page. I mean, that was part of the reason that the county bought the radio system. We had a very diverse, people had their own systems, they couldn't talk to the village, the town couldn't talk to the other town. The county made a decision to put everybody on the same system. It was a lot of money, but they did it, and that was the reason was we have to have cross-disciplinary, communication and communication between police departments and fire departments. We have extra talk groups now. So if we have a large incident in Highlands down here, they go to TAC East and at special events East or whatever, we push them right off into their own radio talk group so they're not tying up 911 priority. We have that ability with this system, and it makes for a safer environment for everybody so they're not stepping all over each other. And then we did all the training with that and all new radios and equipment and everything. So we're willing to, like we said at the beginning, we have a dog in the fight. A lot of local dispatch works well. It's just something to keep in mind as you go forward that these costs and training and technology, it just becomes overwhelming to the point that, you got your village budget and how much of that pie do you want to go towards stuff. So that's you guys make.
and we also use a language service, so regardless of what language you're speaking, we can get an interpreter on.
Oh, that's interesting, yeah, thank you for
Whether it
saying
be
that.
Spanish, Yiddish, those are our 2 big ones.
Okay.
Yes?
No, that was at the language.
So,
Oh,
and like I said, to sum up, if you take that call from a 9-year-old whose mom just dropped in front of him, okay, we've taken those calls. Our dispatcher could be tied up with that call for 15 minutes. And I guess all I'm saying is when you have one dispatcher, they can't really be on the phone with that kid, dispatch the police, and then tone out an ambulance all at the same time. Something's got to take a back seat. And I know everyone looks at the seconds that 911, they say, well, 911 wastes seconds. But if you look at it realistically, I mean, I was a cop for 27 years. I could be in a diner. It takes me time to get out of the diner, get in my car. We do it as quickly as possibly can while doing it accurately and giving the most help we can possibly provide at that moment. And sometimes it's just support. But we don't abandon people, and once again,
Let me ask you, how often do small towns or small hamlets, how often do their dispatchers get retrained or tested?
but they will whenever they want. We have no. If you call us and say you're looking for training, you're looking for someone to come to your station, sit with your guy for 4 hours, you want to send them to us.
But they're not mandated, right?
No, they're not mandated.
So right now in Orange County, there isn't a mandate for retraining.
Well, it's a home rule state. We can't mandate you guys to do anything.
What I mean, there isn't like a...
Oh, we do. We do.
But not
Yes.
for the locals.
But
Not for locals. No. For us, there is.
Okay,
Yes.
so not casting any dispersions on somebody, but somebody that was trained 20 years ago and are good at their job, they're not keeping
They
them...
may have never gone back for any, I mean, they would have to learn the
Well,
CAD system or stuff like
yeah.
that, but
Okay.
not a lot of the stuff that's there.
It's
And we're talking about time being of the essence.
time
And
and
technology moves that along.
and I think even more important than time is whether you're, once you get above 3 minutes, I don't know, that might be somewhat accurate, Doc?
Anoxic
Yeah.
brain injury, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not,
Oh,
it
sorry,
is the
sorry,
time,
it's
but
time
it's
and
what you
accuracy.
do in that time.
Yeah, it's time and accuracy.
So if you're doing something in that time, the time becomes 10 minutes instead of 3 minutes. That's, I think if you've got to take something away from here, that's the most important thing to take away, especially on medical calls.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you very much, very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
See you around. Take care, Frank.
Take care, Frank. Good seeing you.
Take care.
Chief, I'm going to put you on now.
Okay.
I was pretty educational.
I'm going to face this way, if no one minds, so I don't have my back to the back, except you, Kelly. I'll talk loud. So prior to my report, I just wanted to bring,
I can't hear you at home.
oh, I'm sorry, I thought I talked loud enough. I'll do my best not to.
That's for the people at home.
Okay, so before I give my regular report, I just want to bring to the attention of the folks here and the folks at home about a situation that occurred here in the town of Highlands. I think recognition definitely has to be made. And as Commissioner Casey was talking about the dispatch, one of the things that happened during the situation was our officer called dispatch, and the dispatch relayed to the officer that the situation was right next to him. So there's benefits everywhere along the way. But this is an incident that happened on August 10th of this year on Route 293 at about 11:59 hours. I'll kind of read verbatim some of the stuff I wrote, but it's important that you know what went on. The police department received a call on 293 where a subject reported to 911 that he was threatening to kill himself. That individual had doused himself with gasoline and had threatened to light himself on fire if the police did not arrive. During the time, Police Officer Mang, Sr., and our Deputy Chief, Frank Basile, responded to 293. A secondary call was received where the individual said if the police are not there in 3 minutes, he's going to light himself on fire. At that time, P.O. Mang and Deputy Chief Basile arrived on the scene and observed an individual sitting in his truck who had doused himself with gasoline. Prior to that, he had also sliced his body up and about, which was not visible to them, knowing definitely that that man was in crisis. Deputy Chief Basile is a negotiator, has been a negotiator for the FBI, and just recently took his CIT training. And of course, Officer Mang is a combat vet and cool under pressure. They both engaged this gentleman in conversation. During that time, the officers were able to convince that man to disrobe, step away from his vehicle. At that time, I know Officer Liaison was there as well from the village. That man engaged a conversation with our officers. Our officers did what I think is the most important thing, is they committed to trust. A lot of times in situations where individuals are in crisis, we take the situation and that individual goes off into an ambulance and we never see that person again. I really believe this situation, based on Officer Basile's training, Officer Mang's training, was instrumental in allowing this individual knew that the police were there to assist him. He disrobed, discarded his clothing, and at that point, what they saw was the horrific situation where that man had struck his body, sliced his body throughout the day. Somebody definitely in crisis. I want to commend Deputy Chief Basile. I know Police Officer Mang could not be here tonight for their actions. There's no doubt that the individuals that were there and the communication skills that they portrayed, not just to remedy the situation, but I really do believe their skills will have that person, if in crisis again, will reach out to these officers because he felt he could trust them. I know Officer Lilos, and I called Sergeant Torpy, also drove in the ambulance with Deputy Chief Basile as the gentleman went to get treatment. So Deputy Chief Basile is here. He should be commended for his actions. Unfortunately, Officer Mang, as we call him Officer Mang Sr., he's a full-time police officer for the Veterans Affairs. He will come the next meeting with Deputy Chief Basile, and I spoke to the supervisor, where the town would give something to these officers for their actions, but I know there are some other folks here tonight that would like to make some presentations. So, thank you.
How are you? My name is Sean. I'm here from Assemblyman Connor Smith's office. Talk about heroism. I mean, what a story. The Assemblyman wanted me to present these official New York State Assembly citations. One for Officer Mack, one for you. just stating everything that happened, how much of a hero you are, and how much we appreciate your work. And it means so much to us and the community. Thank you.
Officer, don't go anywhere. I'm Mike Anegnostak, a senior advisor to Senator James Scoofer. Sorry, I've got my back to some of you. The senator couldn't make it here today, but he does have a proclamation for you. Before I give it to you, actually, I want to thank you, and I know my sentiments are just like the senator's. The senator is a big supporter of the police. I'm in awe of everything that you do. You know, we live in an environment, we live in a time when I think the police are maligned unfairly, unjustly many times. We run away from danger when there's danger. You guys are trained to run towards danger and to save us. And like I said, my hat's off to you. The senator is proud to give you this New York State proclamation honoring you for your valor. I'm not going to read all the whereases. I'll just give it to you and say thank you very much.
I gotta get my code in there. Hold up, don't move. Yeah, okay, here we go. Hold on. It's gonna happen. Be patient. I gotta remember it first. There we go. Smile. 1, 2, 3. Bam. Gotcha.
Thank you and congratulations. And here's a couple more copies of the proclamation if you want to make more certificates. And this is for the other officer. Congratulations.
Deputy Chief, they right there.
I've worked with you on many occasions on different things, and you are the consummate, dedicated, professional, and cool hand and cool head. I've dealt with people with mental illness. I've sat with them when they've been in crisis, and I know what you did was beyond heroic. You took your time, your dedication, and your training and saved this person's life. You brought them back from the brink. And for anybody who deals in mental health crisis or has dealt with mental health crisis, you know how hard that is. And I can't commend you enough for what you and your fellow officer did. I'm awed and I'm proud. And I am proud to present you a Distinguished Service Award from Orange County.
All right.
Ty found his code that time.
Yeah, I was ready.
If I could, sir, I know
Yes, sir.
Officer Lilos is here, and Officer Lilos actually went to the police academy with Deputy Chief Lucio.
Get him up
I
here.
called Sergeant Topin, and I thank for their assistance in this village, and of course, the New York State Police. And Officer Lilos rode with the Deputy Chief and the person in crisis to make this matter safe, so we thank you for it.
Should be your name. I wanna make sure that happens for you too. So I wanna make sure I get your information. Yeah.
Chief, you all set, or?
I could give the rest of the report if you want to do now.
Oh, buckle up.
I'll be a little quicker than I was before. But, you know, this is one of the situations where we've seen a lot recently of what's going on and whatever your side is, that we're constantly called the part-time police department. That's a part-time officer just saved someone's life with another part-time officer. But I just wanted to run it around a few things that I was able to come up with the last couple of days about the town of Highlands Police Department. We are part-time because we're governed by how many hours we can work. I did 28 years with the New Windsor Police Department. I'm retired. They say you're a part-time, 1,040 hours, that's it. I might be a part-time officer, but I wasn't trained part-time. And neither was a lot of our officers. So I just wanted to run down some of the training requirements that the officers in the town of Highlands have. We have 5 previous police supervisors that worked in different areas in Orange County and New York City. We have 5 previous detectives and investigators worked in New York City, the Attorney General's office, and locally here. We have officers that have associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees, and master's degrees. We have officers that were trained by the New York State Police, the New York City Police Department, the federal government, the FBI National Academy, the Mid-Atlantic Law Enforcement Development, and the various other organizations that have come to the Police Academy in Orange County. 1/3, one of our commitments in our police reform, 1/3 of our officers are crisis intervention trained officers. We now have seven officers. Deputy Chief Basile had just completed the training, so it complements his FBI crisis training. We have 2 officers who've been to the FBI crisis school. We have 4 certified field training officers, with 3 more going at the end of the month. We have 5 Department of Criminal Justice general topics instructors. We have 1 police master instructor. These officers are allowed, because of the training, to teach in a variety of topics at the basic course of police, which is the police academy, the police course in police supervision, where these officers train new sergeants, the field training officer course, the criminal investigators course, and a few others. So the general topics instructors, unless it's a specialty, are allowed to teach in the police academy. Our officers, besides their general topics instruction, have specialties: field training officers, ethical awareness instructors, firearms instructors, domestic violence instructors, defensive tactics instructors, de-escalation instructors, procedural justice instruction, taser and OC instruction, physical fitness, and mental health and alert. These are all specialties that our officers can teach in a variety of different settings. They've also received training, such courses as the NYPD homicide course, state police child abuse course, photography, biological evidence collection, dignitary protection, child abuse, crime scene. Those are just some of the courses. And one of the things I think is committed in this police department with our stakeholders and our town board is this police department, on time, committed our 15-page police reform plan. So we're constantly called part-timers. That's because we work part-timers. But a lot of us have worked full-time jobs. We're only part-timers because the state says we can only work 1,040 hours. So I think it was important to bring to the forefront some of the specialties that these officers here in the town of Highlands have. So I thank you for your time.
Now we're going to go into our regular meeting, so if anybody wants to...
Fire department
I
bailing.
figured the fire...
Where are we going?
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Mary Jane, you have to stay. I have the minutes of our meeting on August the 9th. I have a motion to approve.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried, thank you. Communications, I have a letter from Vision from the town of Highlands, cordially invites you to attend the memorial service for the 20th anniversary of 911. This would be on Saturday, September the 11th, 2021. It's be at the 911 Gardens in Fort Montgomery, beginning at 6:30. Please bring a chair if you're like me and you'd like to sit down. I have a letter from Officer Phil Gavigan. I will be retiring my position as police officer with this department effective August the 23rd at, 2021 at 900 hours. I will expect to receive a retirement identification card as per contractual agreement, at which time I will surrender my active identification card. I know that the chief has his retired shield and the card both ordered.
Yes. Takes
I'll
about
ask-
8 weeks, sir.
I'll ask for a motion to accept the resignation.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I received a nice little package that is 20 years in the coming, the bond.
Yes.
One of the bonds that we had for the water district for $555,000, which was started in 2002. We made our last payment in July. This will save the average 10-point homeowner in the water district about $65 a year. Not a whole lot of money, but for some senior citizens, that's a nice savings. We transferred into the paying account $77,371. to cover the check run dated August the 12th. Big items are Royal Karting, $2,360 for sanitation landfill charges. Global Montiello, $2,697 for sanitation diesel fuel. Orange and Rockland Utility, $4,979 for all town apartments, supply and delivery of electric. Phase 2 diesel, $5,402 for sanitation garbage truck repairs. Slack Chemical, $2,466 for sewage treatment chemicals. Rockland County Solid Waste, $28,230 for landfill charges. We'll do the board liaison reports, starting with Mr. Sullivan. Councilman Sullivan.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Not as well prepared as I normally would like to be, as I spent most of yesterday and a good part of this afternoon finishing up a couple of budgets. The building department budget is done. By done, I mean my draft copy, and I sent you the sewer earlier. I still have to do the water and the planning and the ZBA. Those are all pretty easy. So on the sewer, I haven't done this in a while. I think I emailed Leslie and June. We're looking forward to make sure they have all the DMRs on file. So I mailed a bunch of them today, and you can see the flows normally get lower in the summertime. For the month of July, we had 5.9 inches of rain, and the average daily flow was 75,000 gallons a day. The peak day for the month coincides with the day that we had the most rain for that month, which was 87,000 gallons for one day. Don't be too impressed by that, because 4 months ago, the average for the month was 103,000 gallons. It's lower during the summertime. People are out doing their thing. Down at the sewer plant, it was last Tuesday. I took the day off and went down, hoping to see this new belt press put into operation. They had some trouble getting the proper amount of water to it. It needs water for the polymer. They fired it up on Thursday, though I wasn't there for it. I understand it worked well. They're going to come back and put it into full service sometime in the not too distant future. And in doing the sewer budget, I was unsure of the cost of the polymer, so I put in a pretty high estimate. I'll have confirmation on that tomorrow. That's all I have to say about the sewer. The Zoning Board of Appeals, I was unable to make their meeting. It was here. It's been remote for the last year and a half. It was here. Next month, on the third Wednesday of the month when they meet, September 15th, they will have a public hearing on the matter in this building at 7 o'clock. The Planning Board meets on the third Thursday of the month. I wasn't able to make last week. I got here after it was over with, and I saw Eric for a few minutes. Don't know if there's anything significant going on there.
Just a curb cut,
Okay.
although there's a public hearing in September.
Okay. And on the building department, I had, for the month of, let me make sure I have the right month. For the month of July, we had 14 permit applications were received, 13 issued, 6 certificates of occupancy were issued, 36 building permit inspections, this one you'll like, 70 fire safety inspections, 37 advisory notice violations were issued, 3 notices were completed. So out of 37, 3 were completed. You have to go through them a couple of times. It's all part of the procedure. People have to be patient. Phil is doing things as they're supposed to be done. There were 14 municipal searches were completed, 6 FOIL requests, 247 total number of physical inspections. So I don't think I have anything, I know I'm normally long-winded, much more to say. And that's it, Bob.
Thank you. Councilman King?
Just a few things. Good evening, everyone, and good evening, everyone at home. So, and I thank you for keeping it short tonight. It's hard
Just
to
remember
follow.
your code,
It's just
okay?
hard to follow you. No, but my counterparty, I'm gonna touch on something that really acknowledges what I really think here in a second about my colleague. But first, let me talk about senior citizens. I have a note here from the Orange County Office of Aging. It says the 9th annual Orange County Senior Health and Fitness Day, Life is Better in Motion, Tuesday, September 14th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Thomas Bull Memorial Park Day Camp Area, 94 Grove Street, Campbell Hall, New York, 10916. Bringing Orange County seniors together for a free day of health, fitness, and fun. And you must register to participate, and the point of contact is Miss Danielle Diana Smith, 845-615-3719, or ddSmith@orangecountygov.com. Looks like a bunch of fun to be had by our seniors, and also very healthy. Second, I want to talk about emergency management. As you all know, we are on the tail end of a storm, if we can call it that. It's winding down, it appears. But leading into it, I want to give the community a sense of confidence that here in the town of Highlands, we prepare for these things as best as possible. So my colleague and I, Jim Modlin, we called a meeting with our emergency response coordinator, our chief of police, our chief of fire, our ambulance corps captain, and our emergency coordinator, Mr. Kurt Hahn, and Pat Patterson, the highway superintendent. And we met with those folks in advance to review our emergency response plan and ensure that we all had the same sight picture as we were going into this storm. And I just want the community to know that occurred. And then when it came to actions, as I say in the military, on contact, when the storm actually arrived, then we were out and about, we were up at the ready, and I noticed when I went down by the river, Mondock Park, I ran into one of the police officers, and the first time somebody just recognized me just like that. He said, "Hey, Mr. King," it was pitch black outside, and I had my hood on, and I was in my car. I was just surprised that he knew exactly who I was.
See that?
When I came back into town,
Another 10 years at all? No,
it took me 10 years, but I got there. But when I came back into town, I was equally surprised to see the lights on the building here were still on, and who was working? This guy. So I just want to give the community a sense of confidence in the fact that, we're gonna be out there, we're gonna be available, we're gonna be accessible when these emergencies occur, for sure. And then finally, in conclusion, I want to talk about veterans. And for those who don't know, we had one of our beloved veterans pass several months ago in another state and was buried with full military honors, as deservingly so, a highly decorated veteran. But then Saturday, we had an opportunity here locally to do right by that particular veteran. Folks came from near and far. It was so good to see all the Marines with their Marine Corps hats and regalia. And when we played the Marine Corps song, it was just so moving that they had me standing at attention, and I'm Army. I just stood up and I just had to. But the fact of the matter is, it just shows you the love of this community for veterans. And I was just so proud on Saturday. And so rest in peace to Mr. Charlie Littlejohn. But that's all I have, Supervisor.
Councilman Parry? Along with Councilman King, I'd just like to compliment him on the service that he had for Charlie Littlejohn, a man who served his country, who served his community. My wife and I were pleased to be there and share in that moment. The assessor has turned in her budget, and that's something we're going to have to be gearing up for. And if we follow her trend, she's keeping things the same as last year. So
I know that makes you happy.
keep things this way. That's all I have.
Councilman Modlin?
Good evening, everyone. Again, very nice job on Saturday there, Ty.
Thanks.
On the emergency management call also, I just want to, that was a good call that we had Sunday. And just want to also acknowledge that Lori Tautel was there, and thank you for your support and willingness to bring in resources from the county as may have been needed at the time. So thank you so much on that. Regarding the ambulance corps, there's going to be a picnic this weekend, Saturday, from 12 to 3 o'clock down at Brooks Park. So If you would like to come and help the ambulance corps celebrate and meet some of the folks looking for volunteers, that'd be a great opportunity for everyone to be doing that. A lot of activity, as we have seen in recent weeks, with West Point opening up, bringing things sort of back to normal. They had the acceptance ceremony, can't remember what it's called now, but accepting the new cadets. And that brought in a lot of family this weekend. From what I understand, I had a meeting, my monthly meeting with the garrison commander this morning, and this weekend is another big event, ring weekend. That's when the first class, I think it's the first classmen, get their class rings. What that means for us is a lot of potential family members coming in. Ceremony itself, I guess, is on Friday afternoon, and then there's some other activities throughout the weekend. So for all of us residents, businesses, expect the potential of another busy weekend with tourists and family members, things like that. I'd mentioned this once before, but just a little reminder that the week of Labor Day, there's a lot of things going on. That weekend, in fact, we're going to be, and I'll let Councilman King talk about it, but that weekend, that Saturday is going to be a local Buffalo Soldier event. And then during that week, there's going to be activities in the community and at West Point also dedicating a monument that Friday after Labor Day. So again, a lot of people, a lot of activity in the community that's going to be coming in and being involved. I've talked about in the past this military installation resiliency study that the county is doing with either Department of the Army or Department of Defense dollars. That's proceeding. We're going to be a benefit of it. The town of Highlands is going to be a beneficiary of that. Highland Falls, Fort Montgomery, in terms of electric transmission resiliency, because we are a neighboring community. There is an RFP that has been a request for proposal that has been submitted by the county. This is a county-run show, and my understanding is that they are going to be talking about the selection of the contractor, consulting firm that's going to be doing that work sometime before the end of September. And as the Town of Highlands representative to that, there's a study advisory group that we're going to be involved in and talking about it and that type of stuff. So as I hear more about that and what the impact and the benefits to the community will be, I'll be reporting to you all on that. Last thing, from a liaison perspective, had the opportunity to attend the village board meeting last week. Councilman Sullivan was there also. Again, as we have said in the past, would encourage you all, if you aren't attending those meetings, to definitely listen to them. Both the village meeting is recorded, the town meetings are recorded. You can see those, and would definitely encourage you to attend these meetings. We've stated it here in this board. It was stated again last week that in light of all the talk and discussion that is going on about the village dissolution, if you have questions, come to the board meetings and ask your questions. There's a lot that's going on. Friends and neighbors are sending me posts that are on Facebook that I don't see, that has a lot of different things being said, and it just sort of leaves me scratching my head. So come to the board meetings. That's what we are here for, is to answer those questions or do the best that we can to be able to answer that. Okay? That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to echo the statement about coming to board meetings, both in the village and the town. Tonight was a good example. We're just trying to put out information from questions that we received. The last meeting the village board had, they brought in a couple of their experts to explain a few things. So the more you go to our meetings, and you don't have to go and sit out there, you can watch them on YouTube, or you can watch them live on Channel 23. But the more information you have, the better informed voter you will be. And we have two members of the village board here tonight. I appreciate you coming, Melanie and Brian. Brian sat kind of with a red shirt on here because Somebody almost missed him at the memorial, and
I just saved the best for last. I didn't miss you.
okay. Community choice aggregation. We have a resolution. Community choice aggregation, I'd like to explain things in my language. And what it amounts to, this is an initiative that a group that we put together came up with. And simply put, it's a group of people that are going to the power companies and saying, we're one big group and we want a discount in our rates. And if you're part of the town of Highlands and the village, you will see a discounted rate on your bill. If you don't like that rate, if you don't think it's enough, and for whatever reason you don't want to be part of it, you just write a simple note saying, I want out. And it's done. Am I right, Olga? Am I saying it right? Okay. So we have a motion here. Justin, you wrote the motion, or the
Sure.
resolution?
As part of the process, either the municipality can administer the program or they can hire a third-party administrator. And most CCAs have been hiring third-party administrators, so you had a committee review third-party administrators, and they have made a recommendation to this town board to appoint Jewel Community Power as the third-party administrator for the CCA program in the town of Highlands.
Okay, the resolution is to authorize an administrator for the Community Choice Aggregation Program. That company would be, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but Joule.
Correct.
Community Power. Correct, I spelled it.
I think you said it earlier. Maybe I said it earlier.
Okay.
I was complimenting myself.
There was a lot of research put in the choice of this company, and I'd like to ask the board if they would like to move the resolution.
I'll make a motion to do so.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember Perry?
Aye.
Councilmember Modlin?
Aye.
Supervisor Lipsy?
Aye.
I'd just like to say, you pronounce it joule. In the English system, work is measured in foot-pounds. In the metric system, you measure it in joules, so that's where that comes from.
Thank you. You know, you give us something every meeting. West Point, actually, the next part of the agenda, Jim, maybe you can explain it, and then we can talk about it.
Okay, sure. Received a request about a week or so ago from the garrison, West Point Garrison, and they are seeking, well, they call it a letter of support, I guess, or a resolution. They're doing this elsewhere at other military bases, and so some local communities do resolutions, some do support, letters of support, I guess. But what they are wanting to firm up and document, and apparently that's part of this, document that Long Pond, the bowling alley, and I'm reading off of an email here, bowling alley, Morgan Farm, I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that, and Victor Constant ski area are services that are open to the public. And of course, they're very interested in the local community being involved in this discussion because we're part of the public. And so they, as I said, I had a meeting this morning, my monthly meeting with the garrison commander. This topic came up, and let them know that this was going to be, that we had received the email, that this was going to be a topic for the board to discuss. And they are certainly very open to any questions or comments that we have, and setting up a meeting with them to go into more detail about it or answer any questions that we might have.
Okay. You and I have talked a little bit about it, and I have no problem with, was it the bowling alley, Morgan Farm, and the ski slope, is it?
Bowling alley, Morgan Farm, and the ski area.
Okay, I do have a problem with Long Pond. Going back a couple of years ago, we signed this agreement with the then garrison commander, and the members of the town of Highlands, the village of Highland Falls, and U.S. Army garrison of West Point are committed to building a strong community. We recognize community strength comes from the individuals who are part of it, including employers, educators, civic and faith leaders, and the citizens. All members of our community are able to make a difference. By signing this community pledge, we desire to assist in the implementation of the Town of Highlands, Village of Highland Falls, West Point community commitment to promote appropriate action items to achieve its goals with the other members of our community. Build partnerships that support the strength, resilience, and readiness of service members and their families and the greater community. To work together to ensure Long Pond Recreation Area is an enjoyable source of recreation for our communities. Continue to promote the principles of this in the years ahead. Now, I don't want to see Long Pond turned over to anybody that wants to go there. It was, prior to this agreement, the town of Highlands ran it, paid for it, paid for the help, paid for everything that went on there. We controlled it. West Point was, at that time, able to join us. The only commitment was you had to be from the town of Highlands. Now, with this agreement, West Point took it over, and they were going to do, and the first year they did, a lot of improvements, and that was nice. This year, I don't see those improvements there anymore. And like I said to Jim, I'd love to look them in the eye and say, how's it going for you now? Because I don't think they're bringing in enough money. And I don't think knowing the Army, and not the Army, but the military academy and cost savings and what have you, if it's costing more money than they're bringing in, I'm sure they're not happy with it. I'll go on record to say, I'm ready to take it back. If they want to give it back to us, I'll take it back. I'm not paying the $50,000 a year that they suggested when they were twisting our arm to turn it over to them. So, Jim, if you could convey the message that I'd be glad to talk with them, sit down and talk with them, what have you. And I'm not sure if the town board is following me, that I'll take it back in a heartbeat, but I'm not going to pay them $50,000 a year to do it.
Well, I've been there on both sides of that fence. I was there at the ceremony that you're mentioning. I'm going to support you on this position, to be honest with you. So that's my vote.
Thank you.
That meeting we had 3 or 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago now, when they brought forth that news that was going to happen, from my time on doing Impact Day with the school board, when that meeting was over with, I wanted to call Sean Patrick Maloney and Mike Randall from the Times Herald Record to try and let the public know what was going on out there. Because for those of us, I'm a dinosaur. My family had land taken back in 1931. It's almost 100 years ago. I'm over that. But like Mine Road being open, if nothing else, it's symbolic. You know what I mean? It was from a mine. It's been closed since 1938. It's symbolic to keep it open so that we can drive out there. Long Pond was in our purview for what, since 1960s or 50s we had it, I believe?
At least 20 years. At least 20 years.
You know,
I think we had 4 contracts.
And I only remember one incident. It was back in the 70s. I think there was a couple of people that didn't belong there that threw a dud against a rock or something like that. Do you remember when that happened?
Oh, I know.
No, there was some ordinance that some kid was playing with, and it got us into a bit of a pickle. But aside from that, we ran it well for all those years. And as far as having a lot of people there, it is a very large part of the West Point water system. They pump into it now from Stillwell and otherwise. I thought we treated it rather well. And I went there about 2 weeks ago on a Sunday night at 5 o'clock. I drove in just for the heck of it. The girl was very pleasant. I asked what it takes to get into the place. The picnic area was empty. We had people there till 8 o'clock at night. You'd see 15 families out there. They loved doing it. I'd like to see that come back.
Can I say one last thing
Yes,
about
sir.
this? From my point of view, I think the issue, especially being former military, is that it's kind of personality driven. So you had a garrison commander at the time, Colonel Marsden, I believe, right? That was very energetic about this. And when you signed the agreement with him and the village mayor, he pumped a lot of money into it. But then he changed. So no offense to the current people, but they weren't there when that happened. And so the priorities may have changed. Don't know that to be true. Probably just would suggest you have a conversation. But this is the challenge with every time you have a change of command. Will the next person take up the same sort of interest?
Oh, I follow you. When we signed this, I
You never seen
definitely
it
knew
coming.
that. I definitely knew that. Don't forget, I was in the Army not as long
You
as
seen
you.
it coming,
But, Richie, you have anything?
I think it goes back to the 60s, Bob, because I think Dad was one of the first signers of the agreement back at that time. And it's something the community had control of and could set up programs. And I think on a whole, as Richie was saying, there were very few incidents out there. We were told that we were going to get a lot of improvements, still have the use of it. I don't know if all those things came into place, and I would like to have a discussion on that also.
So Jim, if you could set up something since
Yeah.
you're the liaison there.
So I guess the question then is, do we want to have a board meeting to do this, or do we want to have a series of one-on-one meetings, or, I'm not sure what your all's desire is in terms of
I think you
how
and
to
I-
push this down the road.
See what we can do right off
The
bat.
two of us?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'll do then. All right.
And I'd be willing to say that we would not only not be for it, but I think we would fight against it.
Okay, well, we can, yeah, I mean, it's whatever we decide to do, but I think we need to have the meetings, and like I said, they're very open to whatever it is that we want to do.
And the other three things, I don't know if the rest of the board has any problem with those, but I don't, because there's no local businesses that they would infringe on. Well, there's no bowling alley local, there's no
I don't see a
horse
problem.
farm, and there's no ski slope.
No, I didn't see a problem.
Okay, so Jim,
I'll set it up, yep, sounds good.
I'll give you my times that I'm available.
All right, good deal.
On the agenda, I had a request to use the town hall as a meeting room for a presentation by a Dr. Benjamin from Sony New Paltz concerning dissolution. He is I guess you call it Justin, help me, a renowned
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
authority on government, small
Local
governments,
government.
and what have you. He's been at Sony New Paltz for 50 years, and he was willing to come down and speak to the people about dissolution and small governments and what have you. That's changed. They would rather do it by virtually because of the COVID problem. So look for information as to when this will happen. I'm sure it'll be on YouTube and it'll be virtually. And Justin, you know anything more about him than?
About him?
Yeah.
Well, I think you summarized it well. He's got impeccable credentials about that's what he's studied for several years, local government, and frequently speaks, and well worth listening to.
And he's been at Sony New Paltz for 50 years. Now they named the building after him. So he must be an authority to be reckoned with.
I served with him for a while on the Hudson Valley Regional Council, and I think his main thrust is looking at government from a regional point of view. He does have a lot of background and, worth listening to, but I think I know where he's going.
Okay, our county legislator, Tortel, got me the latest public health alert from our county exec. And due to the increased number of cases and presence of the Delta variant in the community, the Orange County Department of Health, get the words, strongly urges and recommends. That doesn't say mandate. All persons wear a mask when indoors in public, in accordance with CDC guidance. As far as my feelings are,
There we go.
if they want to mandate it, obviously we have to do it.
I'm in compliance.
But if the town board would like to mandate it for the town hall, I'd be certainly glad to listen to you. I don't want to. Any comments, guys?
This has been a long, hard road, and no matter what decision you make, whether it's for a school district or whatever, there's gonna be people upset one way or another. I'm vaccinated, I have my mask right here, I'm comfortable wearing it or not wearing it. The gym that I go to, you don't have to wear it, but I choose to because there's a large number of people. Here I have this glass in front of me. So at this point, and I don't know quite how bad it is, the concentration. If it's enough to make us active, if it gets much worse, we'll probably have to have a mandate again. We've put the door downstairs for $13,000 so people can't get in without being buzzed in. We've bought the deep cleaning system so packing come in at nighttime and deep clean with the, I forget the stuff, it's something with the word oxygen in it. We've done all that. I don't know, that's my feelings, I could go either way.
All right.
Yeah, so I probably would have leaned to be exactly aligned with my colleague until I saw earlier today, one of my former soldiers posted something on Facebook mentioning that her child in another state went to school with a mask, as all her children do, although it's not mandated. But that particular child called her mother to say that, "I'm sick, mommy," and she went to pick her up, had her tested, and the child had COVID. And so I use that example just to say that obviously we are under an additional threat. We recognize that something's increasing. So for me to put this on, it doesn't bother me, although I am vaccinated, although we've been around each other for the last few months, I don't have any problem, but it's just an extra precaution that I'm willing to do.
I will say that wearing a mask is an inconvenience for me. I wear hearing aids, and every time I take the mask off, my hearing aid pops out. I've lost them a few times, wearing glasses. I've been vaccinated, but I will put up with that inconvenience if it protects just one person, and I don't pass it on to someone else.
Yeah, I too have been vaccinated, and but I do believe that there's a degree of personal responsibility involved in this, and that I know there's a lot of debate about are masks effective or not, but there's a lot of debate about are they effective or not. I keep coming back to personal responsibility, and if I feel like I want to wear a mask and need to wear a mask, I'm going to do that. I steer away from, I guess, my personal opinion about mandates on that unless there is outright need to do that as opposed to a recommendation. Having said that, I work for an employer that is going to and is mandating that if you are indoors, vaccinated or not, you wear a mask. And so I'm going to be wearing a mask. And so it's I don't know if that answers the question or not, but I mean, if we want to vote to do that, then certainly I will do that. But I think there's a degree of personal responsibility too that we can't lose sight of.
Okay, I'll ask for a motion to mandate wearing masks indoors in Town of Highlands buildings. That would be the ambulance corps, the town garage, and the town hall. Do I have a motion?
You're gonna have to wait until I put my mask on before I'm gonna make that motion, okay? Motion.
Second.
Okay, I'll do a roll call.
Hold on, maybe, sorry. Councilmember Sullivan?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember Perry?
Aye.
Councilmember Modlin?
No.
Supervisor Lipsey?
No. So tomorrow, June, would you notify everyone and put a sign on the door?
Yes.
What-
Did you do that for an indefinite period of time or an amount of time?
I was just going to say that we will revisit this as needed. So obviously, in 2 weeks from now, we can revisit it, but something tells me it's going to get worse in 2 weeks, but we'll see. Okay, thank you. Now we have 3 appointments as police officers to go into. Chief, why don't you come on up and explain this second phase
Yes, sir.
and the contract? And
So in New York State, we have what's called Phase 1 and Phase 2 training. So police officers can go to Phase 1 on their own. They go to a community college. They receive everything except defensive tactics, weapons of mass destruction, firearms, and some rapid deployment. To go on to Phase 2, the officers have to be hired by an agency. So years ago, you should be sponsored, and they would say, okay, I'm sponsoring you, and you get out of the academy, you had no field training. It's mandatory now that officers, after departing from the academy setting, have to do 160 hours of field training by a certified field training officer. So we have 3 candidates that we've interviewed and we believe are going to be great contributors to the town of Highlands Police Department. These officers also know that they will be paying the fee for the police academy, they'll be paying for the ammunition, and they will train during 160 hours without being compensated. Once they've completed 160 hours, they will then go on the schedule. So we're pretty happy with the 3. 2 of them mentioned once before. 2 are veterans. One was a staff sergeant, I believe, and one was a corporal from the Marine Corps, and another one's a local volunteer firefighter from New Windsor. I would like to mention that in our Executive Order 203 plan, we advertised here locally for people who were certified or uncertified, and we had received no inquiries from anybody from the community. Our goal was to take officers or people potentially to come from the community. We had no takers, so we have these other individuals out there. Not that that would make or break anything. I'm sure they could just be dedicated if they live in this community or not, but we did advertise locally for police officers here, and we didn't receive any applications.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll ask for a motion to hire Taylor Abbott as a Phase 2 police officer according to the contract that they will be signing.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. I'll ask for a motion to hire Joseph Cipriano under the same conditions.
Motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And we'll add one more condition to Michael Walred. He hasn't gotten his certification from the county yet. So I'll ask for a motion to hire Michael Walred under the same circumstances. In addition, he needs certification from the county.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Well, very good. So now you got 3 more, Chief.
Maximum
Yes.
probation? Maximum probation? Maximum probation?
Oh, maximum probation on them all. Yes, yes. And in that particular order.
In that order.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have anything else?
Yeah, I forgot to mention, I'm thanking Jim for reminding me. September 4th, so first back up. The United States Army Military Academy will unveil the Buffalo Soldier Monument on 10 September at 10 a.m. on Buffalo Soldier Field, next to the bowling alley. They have to be, I believe that's an invitation-only event, I think, I'm not sure. But what we talked about here several weeks ago is although those soldiers were stationed at West Point, they lived in Highland Falls because we're talking about a period of segregation. So we, as the town board, said it should be some way for us to also include our residents in the celebration. And what we decided upon was a parade down Main Street, starting at South Gate on September 4th, which is a Saturday. It's a weekend. So Saturday, before the monument's unveiled, parade down Main Street, starting at 10 a.m., South Gate, going over to Roe Park, and then from there doing a sort of festival of sorts where we have a cookout, and I'm going to ask my favorite magic expertise to come out and do some magic tricks and face painting for the children. The Buffalo Soldiers Motorcycle Club has donated some services to cook hamburgers and hot dogs for the kids for free, and then all others will have to pay a small fee to get something to eat. But it should be a good time, and it should be an ability for us to celebrate along with our partners on the other side of the fence. September 4th, 10 a.m., South Gate. That's it, sir.
Kelly, did you have anything? I skipped over you on. Any public comment by anybody? Yes.
You want me to come to the mic there?
Yes, please. For the benefit of the people at home, just say who you are.
Frank Lillis, I'm a town resident. I'm glad you brought up the thing about Long Pond. That really disturbed me. I had worked out there when I was a young teenager as a lifeguard out there. I was actually there, Rich talked to Mr. Sullivan when the kids got hurt on the explosive, very rare thing. I don't know if anything ever happened before that, but I was really upset to see that the MWR at West Point took over Long Pond. That was always ours, and I thought we had rented it only for $1 a year. So where they're coming up with the $50,000, that's disgraceful.
I was twisting my arm.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing.
Yeah, and that's not right. West Point has taken over so much stuff. They have everything. They took over Lady Cliff. That was one of our biggest properties that we had in Highland Falls. That could have been something. Now they have that. So now they take that back. And I thought the senior citizens actually were able to go there for free. And now they were charging $5. We had to make appointments when you can go. There was a 2-hour block. That was really disgraceful. So I hope that the town does take that back. We really need it. That's one piece of property that we have that's at the benefit of the town and village residents. So I say that on that. Second thing is on the 911 discussion. I know 911 does a great job. I won't knock them that. But our local dispatch does even a better job, I feel. We get our calls to our officers right away. We're on the scene almost immediately. I know it's at a charge to the village residents, but I remember back in the days when the town, the ambulance, the fire departments were all part of our dispatch. We were able to talk to one another, and I know the town contributed so much to the dispatch, and now it's all left on the village taxpayers. So I would like to see a time when it comes back. 911 is a great backup, and we even get a lot of calls up at our local dispatch from town residents that don't want to use 911. They call us, and we don't turn them down. We still help them out and do whatever. I don't know if you're aware of how many calls come in through there. Seniors, a lot of people call up, and we know right where we're going. When they call up and they could say Mrs. Jones's house or, Mary Jane's house, we know right where we're going. When they call in there, they're always asking crossroads, this and that. I know they have to identify locations, but that's something that you get with the local dispatch. So just want to make a comment on that. And the last thing is, two more things. I think the mandate is not necessary at this time. I think, like Mr. Monlin said, it's a personal choice. If you feel you're immune compromised, you feel that you need it, you've been vaccinated or not been vaccinated, people are still getting it, I get it. I don't think that's the necessary thing for the town buildings at this time. And I hope that the town will reevaluate that at least every couple of weeks just to see if it's really necessary. And what was the last thing?
Well, I'm the town supervisor. I voted no.
Yes, I see that,
yeah.
Yeah, I had one more thing I actually forgot now, so. But anyway, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Hey, you're going to remember it. Come back in 2 weeks. Come back.
Yeah, okay, good.
It's good to see you here.
I remember very well when West Point came back with that $50,000. You and I had a discussion about it. I was willing to take up the fight then. Matter of fact, I did write a letter to then Deputy Garrison Commander, Mr. Cowan, at the time. asking them to reconsider, telling them that I felt like it was highway robbery and a disservice to the residents of the town of Highlands. So I'm willing to go back to bat again. It's interesting that that happened around the same time that West Point lost its Delafield Pond swim area. How convenient, because they lost one area, all of a sudden, something that we had for 40, 50 years at $1 a year was now going to cost us $50,000 annually. That's ridiculous. That's strong-arming and that's bullying, and I don't stand for that. I say, let's go to the mat on it. I'm more than willing.
Thank you.
I think they null and voided their contract with us in that agreement by the simple fact that you do have to make an appointment. You have a 2-hour window, they evacuate. They're using COVID as a thing. Somehow they clean the beach, but people who've been there and come and gone have not seen anything being laid down or sprayed. And even if they have to clear the beach, why do they have to clear the huge picnic area? The residents who are senior citizens, who pay their taxes, who have been in this community, who have done service to this community, are now having to pay for something that they had as a thank you to them for free. I think West Point needs to step up to the plate. MWR is doing a horrible job. The residents of the community who used to go there and enjoy it and love to spend almost their entire summer there with their children, like my parents did when I was a kid, don't have that to them anymore. They don't have that available. And you can't go to the gate and pay at the gate. You have to pre-register online for your ticket.
Yeah.
So.
In either morning or afternoon or something like that.
Yeah, there's 2 separate sessions, and it's ridiculous. And then on the masking, I sent you that notification because we are seeing a significant increase in COVID cases in Orange County. That's why the health department and the county executive put that advisory out. If it changes, if anything comes, I will immediately send you a communication and let you know what has changed or what has gone on. But at this point, the cases unfortunately are still increasing, and it's one of our tools. What have we known for the last year and a half, 2 years? Wash your hands, stay 6 feet apart, wear your mask, and then get vaccinated. Unfortunately, there's cases where those who are vaccinated are getting asymptomatic COVID and bearing it to other people, or who are getting COVID regardless. So it's unfortunate, but.
Yeah, I didn't like wearing a protective mask in Iraq when they told me Saddam Hussein had gas, but I had to wear it.
Yeah. I don't like wearing it.
Okay.
But,
that's just me.
It is what it is. If me wearing this mask is protecting somebody in this room or somebody I love, it's the least, most invasive thing I can do. That's how I see it. So,
Thank you, ma'am. Sure. Oh, you remembered.
You remembered, huh? All right.
Just one more thing. I know you had invited people to the public, to come to the meetings, both the village and the town, because this dissolution matter is going to be a big matter, both for town residents and village residents. But I know some seniors, like Lori talked about, that are afraid. They're afraid to come out. They don't want to be in public settings like this. In the village, it's a little even tighter in Village Hall. I don't know if it's possible, because they can watch it on YouTube, but it's kind of after the fact. If it's possible to have a phone that if a resident had a question on a particular matter that took place tonight, if they could actually call in and a question could be asked. So if we verified that they're a resident, and just call it in, both even with the village board, if they could do that, to call in, because a lot of people won't come in, and they can see it afterwards on YouTube. But if they had a question on a particular matter, it's after the fact. And I don't know if that's just a possibility if the board can think about that or discuss if they could call in, if you take 4 or 5 questions. I mean, not that you sit there all night on the phone, but 1 or 2 questions that might pertain to something that's going on.
Let me think about it.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Jennifer Steinmetz-Hurst, 30 Cherry Street, Fort Montgomery. I do have some questions in regards to the village dissolution for the board, if I may. My first would be, are you planning to hire all of the village employees?
All of the village employees. I would have to say we haven't made those plans yet.
Okay. Are you privatizing the water and sewer plants? Is that your plan?
That's not in the plan.
How are you planning on
Well-
handling the water and sewer department?
No
If you're not
different than it is
privatizing?
now, other than making districts. In other words, in Fort Montgomery, you got a District 1, District 2, water. We'll just say the village would be District 3.
Supervisor, obviously, you handle your meeting how you see fit, but it doesn't have to be question and answer. It is public comment. And a lot of these things have not really been discussed by the
I
board.
agree with you, but I think
I understand.
everybody.
You
on the-
handle it. I just wanted to remind you.
No, and I appreciate that. But everybody on the board is telling them to come and ask us questions. And it's hard to say,
But if there are things that you all haven't discussed and figured out yet, and
that's what I'm trying to say. On hiring village employees, we haven't figured that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's fair, I understand, but I do have to say that, you did say at the village and town board that we could come and ask questions. So, these are important questions that anyone that is a taxpayer needs to know the answer to. So my next question, if you can or cannot answer it, I understand, but are you planning on keeping the police force part-time or full-time?
Well, if the village dissolves and the town is, as a result of that, has to take over the policing of the village, we have a part-time police department.
So it seems to be, and I will not hold him to it, that you are looking to keep it as a part-time police force.
We have a part-time police department.
Fair enough. And you're probably not going to allow them to answer this, but I will ask it.
the supervisor can answer any of the questions he wants to. I was just reminding him of what public comment is.
Nope, I understand. Are you for or against the dissolution of the village?
I'm a town resident, I'm neither.
Okay,
Can I speak to that?
Yes.
please.
Just for a minute. So I've said this before, and I've had people where I've gone to the village meetings come up to me and say, Rich, what is it that you have against the village of Highland Falls? Like, I didn't initiate this. And did it need to happen? I'm going to say this. And I'm not into this village town ego thing and whatnot. 10 years ago, the village of Highland Falls' budget was what I believe to be about 60 to 70% of what the town budget was. Now the village budget exceeds the town budget. I'm not sure what happened. The people of Highland Falls have to figure that out. I don't live in the village. If I did live in the village, I'm not really sure what I would do, except to say to do it in 3 months is hasty. There's a lot but that's how the issue has been forced. And I would recommend not being reckless in that process. The town has to exist. So like right now, I'm getting $70 a week to work 40 hours a week at this job. I really wouldn't, if you're gonna dissolve and have it go to the town, there's gonna be some things change over here. Salaries for people, et cetera, and so on. So my only opinion is the town has to exist. If the village dissolves, we will adapt. And we are capable. You have a board that can do that. We will adapt.
Anyone else?
Yeah, if I could add something that, because I think you're responding to comments that perhaps I've made and invitations that I've mentioned. And again, I'm Jim Modlin. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a newest member of the board. I live in Highland Falls. And I think my feeling about this is you heard the supervisor's initial reaction to the answers to some of your questions. And I think it's important that, and not the result of any board discussion yet, okay? And I think you all know that, and one of the things that I like about our board is that it is a consensus in terms of whatever it is that we're going to be doing, whether it's a resolution or, some of the things that you've heard us talk about tonight and perhaps in the past. Not necessarily just one person's opinion that carries the day. And so I think right now it's very important that we hear those kinds of things. If we have those questions that you have, concerns that you have, I think it's important that we as the town board, I think it's also important that the village board hears that. I cannot say we know, I cannot say I know what the answers are yet. We're all sort of going through this to begin with. I know the village has contracted with the LaBerge Group, and they seem qualified. They've done this type of stuff before to be able to do an interim plan. The village, the town, the last meeting we had, the principal of the LaBerge study was here and talked a little bit at the town board. He gave a more detailed presentation at the village board meeting that week. And I don't think we mentioned yet, in fact, I should have said it, that the following day, that was a Monday night, that Tuesday, of a couple weeks ago now, that this town supervisor, our comptroller, and I had a meeting with the LaBerge Group. It was a Zoom call, very good call. Asked them a lot of questions also, a lot of the same questions actually you're asking in terms of what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, and how to proceed forward, what have other communities done in the past, recognizing every community is different in terms of what the right answer is. But certainly we pledged the board's support to working with them to provide information to them so that in this short period of time that is available to come up with an interim plan, it can be as thorough and factually based plan as possible. And I know that, in fact, in an email conversation I had with them just today, that they are in the process of setting up meetings with representatives of the town, the department heads and stuff like that. Kelly presented that information to them. We're very open, very transparent with that, and we're all sort of going through this. But it's important, I think, as your elected officials, that we hear from you, that we understand what the concerns are, and that we can factor all of this in terms of what the decisions are going to be as we're going down this path. So I don't want you, please, or anyone that might be listening, that if we don't immediately have an answer to a question, it's not that we're not listening to the question. The fact is we are listening to the question, and we're trying to figure out what is the right thing to do. And so that's my opinion. I am a resident of Highland Falls, and I am sitting back and taking this all in and listening to how this is going to evolve before I make a final decision on how I'm going to vote, okay? Speaking for myself. And to that point, I do know that, and the reason that the state is doing this is because of taxes. And a way that the state is offering to try to reel in property taxes. Tax cap is one thing. This is another benefit. I do know that because I've been told by friends of mine that live in Cornwall. Cornwall is also talking about, there's a discussion in Cornwall about whether or not to do something like this. I've seen recent articles that up at Lake George, they're talking about this. South Nyack, I guess, just recently did the dissolution. So the fact is, I guess we in the state of New York are recognizing, we as citizens are recognizing that there is something that can be done to try to get control of whatever, what our property taxes are. And so it's going to be up to us as residents, and the way this goes, it's going to be the residents of Highland Falls that make the decision on this. It's going to be up to us to weigh what the benefits are, to weigh what the services are, to weigh what it is that we pay for in property taxes, and make a value judgment in terms of, is that, are we okay with that? And so again, from a town board, from my perspective, not to speak for the town board, that look to find out as much information as we can, try to do the right thing for the community, try to find out what makes the most sense, and still recognizing that you all elected us to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And so we need to look at all that. So I probably gave you more than you ever wanted to hear, and I apologize for that.
I have a few final comments, if I may. My first would be that it is August 23rd. This vote takes place, I believe, November 8th.
8.
Okay, so that's not a lot of time So we really should be getting out information to people so that they can make informed decisions. Because right now, based on the way that you looked at me, you didn't really know, and you don't really know what's going on. And I think you need to know. And I think that the town taxpayers need to know. And while we can sit here and say that this is going to save money, it's not. I've personally been involved in a lot of cost efficiencies in my position at my job, and I can tell you that year 1 and year 2, you're going to see savings. But by the time you get to year 3 and on, you're not. You will see that it will increase. The village taxpayers will still be required to pay off their debt, so that's one tax bill. On top of that, the town taxpayers, which now they will all become, are going to be responsible for paying for all of these extra services. So you're really not saving money by doing this. So I have already gone on record multiple times, and I'll do it again here. I am very much against dissolving the village because it is not cost effective. And anyone that wants to challenge me on that, feel free. But that's how I feel. And I would like for you all to really strongly consider and thinking about all of the questions that I brought to you, because they need to be answered. So thank you very much for
So
your time.
let me just make one comment.
Yes.
And I appreciate everything you just said, and really respect your thorough knowledge that you brought forward. Thank you so much. But I also want to say this is not something we initiated when you say we should not do this.
I agree
From
with
my
that.
understanding, this was a petition from residents of the village of Highland Falls that brought this forward.
Yes.
So my position is I respect the will of the people. So if you and others like you prevail in your vote, I say, okay. If the people on the other side of this consideration prevail, then I say, okay. Our job then is to prepare to then respond to what occurs afterwards, such should we have to take responsibility of the residents within the village. And so I think we're doing that. We're doing the assessments, we're doing the analysis, we're taking in your questions. So don't think we're just sitting back here not, oblivious.
No, I don't believe that. I'm just asking that you really put thought into the questions that I asked you,
Thank you.
because you're affecting people's lives. You have people that work in this village that you want to pay the taxes, you want to shop here, and you want to continue to live here. So I have to be one of those people too. Do I want to stay here and pick up the extra tax that's going to come to me for? So yes, you said that you're my elected officials. I need to be able to come to you with my questions and my concerns and know that you are actually taking care of looking into that for me.
Right,
And that's
but
all
you
I
do understand at certain phases of this, like for example, the village currently is a sovereign entity, right? They are a government in of itself. We
Correct.
can't go down and say, stop doing what you're doing right
Of
now.
course not.
So it then handcuffs us to a degree to see what the results are.
Correct.
Now, meanwhile, we have to plan. What will the police force look like in the future, should we have to go that direction? So we're having conversations from our experts. Chief of the police, the deputy chief, what it looks like, right? But now we're not going to unveil all that right this minute because it's still premature. I hope you respect that.
I do. I find it to be very premature if we're even having conversations with West Point before we even have a yes or no vote. So I hope that's not happening. I hope we're actually kind of making sure that we're not doing that as if it's happened. So, that's another piece of what I would like to make sure.
Clarify the West Point comment for me because I didn't really
I've
understand.
heard through the grapevine that there's been some conversations with certain board members from both the village and the town with West Point asking what they'd like to take over.
Really?
I would hope that's not happening, because if it did, then that's not exactly what
Well,
should be happening.
Something I would like to say
Can we take a poll of all the town board members to see if they've been party of those conversations?
And
Go
again,
ahead.
sir,
Go
I
ahead.
admitted up front that I heard through the grapevine.
But that's what's dangerous, is
But that's-
conjecture, okay?
that's right.
Conjecture is
Look on
dangerous.
Facebook. That's what I'll
Oh,
say to you.
yeah, Facebook.
No conversations from me.
And neither me. But
So how about
this
you?
is what people are relying on for their information.
Well, they are mistaken to
That is
rely
my
on
point.
Facebook. The LeBurge gentleman said that first and foremost.
I agree with you.
Spreading
Okay.
fear.
So that's,
Hang on, I'm the one that's up here right now. So
All right,
as I was
let's not
saying,
have cross-talking. Thank you very much for your comments.
You should clarify that.
One thing on that, we talked about dangerous. It's also dangerous on all these people that signed the petition that were misinformed, that told them that if they sign this petition, you're gonna save money, we're gonna combine everything, your taxes are gonna go down, and that's all incorrect, because nobody knows what it is. So all that, people that signed the petition, I've talked to many people in the village that say, oh, we didn't even know what it was. We didn't know they were gonna dissolve the village. We didn't know all of this. So talk about dangerous, that's dangerous to tell people that you're automatically going to save money by dissolving the village.
Right.
Because the town taxpayers are going to pick up a lot of that, and just like Ms. Hurst said, that we're going to pick up a lot of that, and it's not going to be a great big savings. I don't believe it will be. I guess we'll have to find out.
I don't
once they
disagree
do
with
the
you.
thing.
I just want to say this. I'm not voting in this because I'm not a resident of the village.
Right.
So let's clarify that, number one. Number two, I have had no conversations
Mm-hmm.
with anybody from West Point about anything at this point. So I just want to clarify that. So if there's anybody up here who did, they can speak for themselves. I'm talking about me right now.
Mm-hmm.
No conversation whatsoever. That's the first I've heard of this right here.
Okay.
And Ms. Sullivan, didn't you said that our budget was 60 or 70% of the towns, and now it exceeds it? But doesn't that make sense? We have double or triple the population in the village. So of course it's going to exceed it.
I don't know why that is. And in all fairness, this whole village-town thing, first of all, I'll take a passionate moment here. Most of the people speaking have a public sector stake in the game directly. I don't. I work for the private sector. I'm on my 105th employer. I get laid off just like Michael did when he was a carpenter. So that's a world that I live in. And it's a harsh world. And we don't want to see anything bad to happen to anybody. Villages, by law, cannot have districts. Everybody gets everything. Everybody pays for everything. And something we learned a couple of years ago, you should remember this, villages are not partisan. You can serve, you can work on West Point and serve on the village board. Towns are partisan. Remember that when you go into this vote. The towns are partisan. Towns have districts. So when I hear people say the town people are going to pick everything up, that's not true. Jennifer is the secretary for the fire commissioners. I was a fire commissioner. He doesn't pay for it, he doesn't pay for it, and he doesn't pay for it because it's a district. Towns have districts, and as this evolves, a water district in the village of Highland Falls would be separate and distinct from Water District 1 or 2 in Fort Montgomery. And if you live in Water District 2, you're not going to be paying for the village water in Water District 3 or whatever it's called at that time. So towns have districts. I don't think it's correct to say we're going to have to absorb everything. That will be district specific. And that part is complicated. That's not easy. That's complicated. And you only have a couple of months to decide that. That wasn't our impromptu causing that.
No, I realize that, but like I said, to tell people automatically you're just going to save money.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows until it's all laid out. And without a plan of not having to know what we're going to do, nobody really knows who's going to save money. So
Right.
just leave it at that. Thank you.
I have actually good news. Fun news. But I do want to say, Jennifer Gardula, I live in the village of Highland Falls. I've lived both in the village and the town, so I've kind of lived both ends of the coin. And I come also here with an understanding, living the better part of my life, wondering how I was going to feed my son. So I think the first question that Ms. Hurst and Mrs. Hurst asked is really identifying the future of the employees of the village. I think that's a very important question that really kind of needs to be asked right off the gate, so then we can go into it and say, listen, it's a different environment. It's our brothers and sisters. It's our neighbors. We broke bread with them. Yes, we're looking at cost effectiveness, but we have to really kind of balance that out too. On the other end, I've been working with a lot of the businesses in the village, and a lot of what's coming back to me is that they lack guidance and resources. We have a very, very small chamber. So the good news of that, I actually spoke with Heather Bell. She's the director of membership over at the Orange County Chamber of Commerce, and she has opened up an initiative to bring in the chambers of the community of around the county, different communities of the county, to join with them forces to build these businesses. Listen, post-COVID, still during the COVID time, they really need the help to get out there, and they have an event happening Thursday night. It's the New York Air Show. It's a mixer. And then their breakfast is September 9th, Thursday, September 9th. It's going to be up at Legoland. And they're open to members and non-members, and it'd be a good chance to get out there and take a look and see and really start joining. And they come at a discount too if you're already a member of this chamber. So it's really a way to open up, get foot traffic here, and get businesses out there. Because a lot of businesses that I've been to, and I have put them out on Facebook, people in our own community didn't even know they existed. So it's super important when you're talking about sustainability of our village, of our town. We need foot traffic. We need people in here. We need our businesses to thrive. I don't want to see one business fail, especially our new ones. So the Orange County Chamber of Commerce is going to be a great way to go. So look into it.
Anyone else? Motion to adjourn?
Can I just make, I'd like to make a comment too before we adjourn. I'd like to make a comment.
Yeah, Olga had something.
But I think someone else has a comment.
I'm sorry.
No,
I just have a mundane piece of business following all of this dissolution stuff. As the chair of the Environmental Committee, I want to thank you all for approving the CCA administrator and going forth with this. I want to remind everybody that we are the first community in Orange County to do this. So kudos to the board for going ahead with this. I also want to invite everybody who's here and watching to our next committee meeting. We meet on the second Friday of the month. It's at 6 p.m. I presume we'd be able to use this facility. We have a speaker coming from from Cornell Cooperative Extension, and he'll be talking about improving energy efficiency in your home. So he will have some really serious options for homeowners to investigate ways to save money on energy in their homes. So I do invite everybody to come to that. Anybody who needs information can check our Facebook page or contact me directly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Agua.
Thank you.
Does someone else?
This
have a
gentleman
comment?
right here, I think.
Michael Joyce, living down in Highland Falls, I'm not very good at this. I'm more in the back, staff sergeant.
Well, relax.
Let's do away with the fear and the finger pointing. People want to operate on fear, especially with older people and stuff like that. Let's do away with it. You're honorable people. You're going to do the right thing, right? We might pay out up front, but save money, in the long run. We're getting into debt slowly. We have to do something about it. COVID-19 did a whack on this economy. So we're already in a hole. So we have to do something. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, it pains me to say this, and I appreciate what you're telling us about the grapevine. And the only reason I'm bringing this up, because I had not planned on doing that tonight, is some friends and colleagues of mine sent me some Facebook posts last week about some of the stuff that's going on in Facebook, in which my name was specifically mentioned about a West Point connection. My West Point connection is one, I graduated from West Point back in 1977. I taught on the faculty back in the 1985 to 1988. My wife and I have two sons that graduated from West Point, and I currently am the town liaison to the garrison at West Point. That's it. Under no conditions have there been, that I've been party to any kind of talk about West Point coming in and taking over the community or buying up property or anything like that. I can categorically say that that is the case. Believe me or not, that's up to you, but I can categorically say that that is the case. And in fact, expecting that this conversation may come up sooner than later, when I was at my meeting, I have a meeting with the garrison commander every month. I've started that since January or February when I came on the board as part of my liaison role, having the feeling that this topic might come up sooner or later. I asked the garrison commander point blank, is there any plan on the part of West Point to do anything behind, what I've heard is West Point's behind the dissolution of Highland Falls. I've heard a lot of things being stirred around. no plans, nothing at all. In fact, it was sort of like a laugh. You got to be kidding me. And so, again, you know, if the other board members want to comment, I know the answers already, but in case there is, because my name has been mentioned specifically from what I've been told, there is no connection, there is no collusion. I am not about to be doing anything except looking out for the best interests of this community. And so, that's all I can say. So I do appreciate, I really appreciate you coming up and doing this, and I hope you continue to represent yourself and represent others so we can hear from you. So thank you so much for that. And if you see some things that are strange, please let me know. Okay, thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.